There's actually some good news as we head into the 2020 elections, and that good news for 2020 actually comes from 2018. Recently, the Census Bureau released statistics showing that the youth voter turnout in the 2018 midterms had increased by nearly 80% over what it was in the last midterms, the 2014 midterms. Nearly an 80% increase, 79% to be exact, in youth voter turnout. Here's the thing though. That turnout was, in 2014, 20%. So in 2018, it rose to 36%. Still a relatively small number. However, when compared to the turnout rates of other groups and the country as a whole, not horrible. It's getting better. It's getting much better. Growth of 80% in any particular demographic is phenomenal, especially when you consider the fact that midterms typically have lower turnout rates. But this past midterm could either be an anomaly or a sign of things to come. We don't know that yet. You also had massive surges in turnout among Hispanics and Asians here in the United States, both by over 10%. And we all know, obviously, what happened in the midterms. Democrats did get that blue wave. It wasn't apparent. We knew Democrats took back the House on election night, but it actually took a couple days, maybe even a couple weeks to see how big that blue wave actually ended up being. But it was pretty massive. And it's because of this increase in voter turnout. So again, the question is, will this be an anomaly? Is it going to be a one-time little blip? Or is this the way things are now? Because if we take that surge and take it into 2020, where things are going to increase again, this is suddenly a different electorate here in the United States. These are different demographics to play with. These are different people with different views who are suddenly voting like they never have before. People with different values. People with different goals for this country. It is obvious the youth voters do not care about the same issues as an 80-year-old voter. And that's not a knock on this person or this group. But they don't. An 80-year-old voter typically is not going to care as much about climate change as an 18-year-old. Why? Because the senior citizen understands that that's not going to be something that truly affects them. And that's not saying that that age group doesn't care about it. There are plenty who do. But psychological studies show us that as we get older, as our bodies get older, as our minds get older, we typically start to view things as how they affect us personally, individually, and worry about protecting ourselves because we are more fragile than we used to be. That's psychology at work. That's not me knocking some age group, by the way. But nonetheless, this young group, these young voters, make up the largest voting bloc in the United States today. We beat the baby boomers, folks. But you got to show up in order to do that. And that's the thing. Now they are. Yeah, I have seen too many people, most of them, I guess, from either Gen X or the baby boomer generation, on social media complaining about the fact that, oh, these youth voters, yeah, but they never show up. They never show up. They never show up. Well, guess what, folks? They're showing up now. They're pissed off now. They're letting their voices be heard now. This is an age group that has gone through things that your age group hasn't. Yes, you went through things they won't have to. But the horrors and atrocities that they've seen them play out on the shores of our waters, in our schools, in our country. Most of the horrors of some of the older generations, they took place somewhere else. They saw real horrors of war, but they didn't have to deal with it here. They didn't have to deal with it on their street. They didn't have to deal with it in their school. This age group does. They have gone through the mass shootings. They're living through climate change. They have seen the floods and fires and storms and droughts and all of that. They have seen the trade wars. They have seen the images of the children locked in cages down on the southern border. It's all happening inside the United States, and these young voters want to stop it. And if they do want to stop it, All they have to do is show up in 2020. But these latest numbers, that is a good sign that these kids are ready to go for 2020. Thanks for watching, everybody. And don't forget, if you like what you see here, like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. And now you can also become a member of Ring of Fire and get exclusive early access to certain Ring of Fire videos all throughout the week. Just click on the little join button right below the video.